Hi guys, and welcome to another video. In this video I'm going to be showing you how to fit a variable split relay to a Volkswagen Transporter T5 from start to finish. The kit that we got for this particular job comes with some heavy duty 16mm red battery cable, some earthing cable for the battery, some shrink tube to put on any excess metal connections that you don't want exposed. Comes with a VSR, a variable split relay. Now this one cuts in at 13.3 volts and cuts out at 12.8 volts. It is important to note that if you have a smart alternator, this will not be for you. You will need to get yourselves a DC to DC charger. This won't work. Got a 6-way distribution board. This is where we can wire in all our appliances, our lights, our USB cables. Got 2 inline fuse holders with relevant fuses, also some fuses for the distribution board as well. The all-important isolation switches. Now we've got 2 of these. I'm going to put one in between the auxiliary battery and leisure battery, and one in between the leisure battery and the distribution board. Got some battery connectors in case you need them, and some cable connectors as well in case you need those. So the battery on the T5 is located under the bonnet on the passenger side. The idea for today is to run the cable from here, in through the dash, inside all of the dashboard there, underneath the carpet, behind that plastic trim, and then up into where the battery is going to go under the seat there. So first things first, let's get this passenger seat removed, as the battery is going to be going under the passenger seat. It's important not to lose the bolts that you've just taken out of them seats. I like to just place them on the seat there, and then I know where they are and where they go. So this particular battery plate fits directly under the seat in the T5. This is designed for the T5. So these 2 holes here use the bolts that the seat frame uses, and then it's raised so that it doesn't damage any cables underneath. So it is important to make sure you don't trap or damage any cables, but as long as you're sensible, you'll be all right fitting one of these. So the next job is to remove these 2 back bolts from this seat frame. This job requires a 16mm socket set. So there is quite a few cables under here, but they won't get damaged if you seat this correctly. So once this is sat onto there and down, we're pretty good there. There's no cables getting squashed. All the cables run along here. There's 2 that run under, but they are protected by the carpet anyway. So I'm going to get this bolted down. Now what I like to do is pop a couple of little pilot holes with a 2mm metal drill bit and a couple of self-tappers in there. One of my top tips when you're drilling metal is to make sure that you go slow, because as the metal heats up, it becomes harder and therefore harder to drill. So be patient and go slow with it. Now once you've done that job, the next job is to move this nut here. Once you've seated the battery, and you can take the covers off, in case you forget or you don't know, there's a plus and a minus on the battery itself. Once you're confident that that battery's bolted down nice and tight, we can move on to the next job, which is actually threading the cable through to connect to the battery. So before we can run the cable, we've got to get this battery out. So to disconnect that battery, you need a 10mm socket set, and make sure you connect the negative terminal first and then the positive. Sorry, disconnect. Then you need your 13mm socket set back to get the actual plate off itself to release the battery. Next, we need to remove this rubber seal, and there are 2 screws under here that will release this metal tray. The first screw you want to remove is this one here, and it's a T30, it's a Torx bit, in case you're wondering. And the second one, which I'm not going to film, it's a little bit more tricky, is this one here. And the second one is this one here. Again, T30. And once they're removed, this will just pull out like that. And now we've got a nice big space to work from. To make life easier from in here, we're going to remove this under panel here. There's 2 screws, I believe, one there and one there. And then that should just drop down and get out of the way as well. Save you some time, these are T20s. So what you're going to do now is this grommet here, you're going to remove that, put it somewhere safe, and then thread this cable down through there. We can put the grommet back in after. So once we've got a bit of cable through and we're confident it's going to stay, take you around to this side, and you can see the cable has come out here. And that's how to get through the bulkhead. Now that we've got the cable through the bulkhead, we need to look at a way of running it to where we need it. So what I'm going to do is run it under the carpet, under this bit of plastic trim, and up in behind, and I'll show you how I do that now. So first things first, I like to use a little flat head just to get this carpet removed from here so you can get your hand behind. If we look up in here, I can't really show you at the moment, but there's a gap behind the carpet. So what we can do is actually thread this cable down behind that gap there, pull as much through as you're going to need, and that's how you start. And then you can run it down under here like so. Pull this little corner out, then from there on we can look at threading it under this little bit of trim here, making sure not to trap it. Now it's important to note I actually removed this bit to run that cable properly. I haven't finished running it yet, but I just thought I'd let you know. The way this removes is it pops out at the bottom and lifts up and off. Now, because this install is purely for demonstrative purposes, the client hasn't actually done anything with this fan yet. It will be getting converted in the future, but for now I just wanted to get this in and show you guys how to do it properly. I've seen a few videos online and none of them really show you how to do things, they just tell you what they've done. So for demonstrative purposes, I'm going to be putting a bit of wood on there with everything on it so you can see what order everything needs to go in before it gets to the battery. Sometimes the VSRs can be a single flow, meaning you have to put the positive from the aux battery on a certain point and the output to the leisure battery on the other point. This is a dual flow model we've got here, so it doesn't matter which one goes on which, it just purely works on voltage and an open closed circuit. So I'm going to run the positive onto the bottom from the aux battery and the leisure battery out the top. But like I said, it doesn't matter on this one. But just bear that in mind in case the one you have is a single direction. So now that the positive side of the battery is complete, let me just show you quickly how I've run it. I did this off camera just because it's time consuming. Bear in mind that when this conversion gets done, this will all get cased into whatever unit they're put in here. So this is just a temporary thing and predominantly just to show you guys how it all works. So we've got the isolation switch into the fuse, into the variable split relay, and then on to the battery positive. Here we have the earth for the variable split relay, which I'll move on to next, and also we're going to earth this battery. But yeah, that's the positive done. I'll show you up close now. So the positive comes, it goes in behind the switch. So it goes into the switch, out of the switch, up into the fuse, out of the fuse, and then up into the VSR and out of the VSR on to the battery. So now that the positives are all connected, let's talk about the earths or grounding points. So what I tend to do with these is actually earth the leisure battery itself to one of the 4 studded bolts that comes up for the seat base itself. Now it is important to check for continuity between these and another point of the vehicle that you know is earthed properly. You can do that with a multimeter set it to ohms, and it will read OL, which is overload, because there's an open circuit. So as soon as you check continuity between a grounding point that you know is good on the vehicle and the point that you want to use, if you get an audible beep or 0.0, you know there's continuity between the two and that you can use that as a good earthing point. So let me show you the earthing point I'm going to use. So I am going to give this a good clean up, but I've chosen to use this bolt here. I'm just going to make sure it's all nice and clean and that we get a good contact on that. And then that is actually perfectly fine to use. That's under the seat. There's 4 of them. That's the only accessible one. I will use that for the leisure battery and the variable split relay ground too. You may need to buy a slightly bigger terminal connector for the VSR earth to get it onto the actual bolt for the seat frame. The connector that it comes with is too small, so it's important to order a slightly larger connector for that. So now I'm just going to connect up the positive back to this terminal here on the battery, making sure the negative's disconnected the whole time you're working on it. This is a 10mm socket for anyone that's interested. Going to get the battery plate back in to hold it in place. So I've now turned the van on, everything's connected up. It's reading 14.2, 14.3 from the alternator. There was an audible click, so I know that the VSR started working. I'm going to get the multimeter out now and just double check that everything's good at the battery. And then that's it really, job's a peach. So just to run through it all again very quickly. Cable's tucked in, I'm happy with it coming up through there, so is the client. I could have taken everything up, trim off and hidden it, but it's really not going to be an issue in this van. Goes in through the on-off isolator switch, in through the fuse, out of the fuse into the VSR, out of the VSR onto the leisure battery. Now you can run another fuse the other side of the VSR. I don't feel that's necessary, some people do, although saying that on my own van I have, but on this particular one I didn't feel the need to. Now I must confess, when I put this back I completely forgot to do a particular step, which is run the cable through this grommet here with the washer fluid cable, and then you can drop it down under here. It doesn't get touched here. Alternatively, you can pop a little hole through and a grommet through that bit there. You'll notice I've screwed on the distribution board. All I'm going to do with this is run the earth, run the positive, and then this is good to go, so we can put the seat back on and we don't have to worry about taking that off in the future. So everything's in, on, tested and working now. I wired in the distribution board just so that we didn't have to get under the seat again, but that will be a separate video because this was mainly about the VSR. So yeah. Once again, thanks very much for watching. I hope you found that video useful. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content just like this.